All right, now you didn't sweep the entire building and there was two of you. There's nothing wrong with having two of you. However, it only takes one person to approach. Two is an intimidation factor. Now, here's the second thing. You want to sweep the entire building, and what you want to do is you want to come at it from both sides. So you want to go from the front of your building. You have one coming from the back side, one from the front side, and then y'all meet. Since you already have a status of what is inside the building, you didn't see the two people that were sitting downstairs. Y'all turned around and afterwards, and I came right around behind you. From a tactical standpoint, y'all were at a disadvantage. What should have happened is one should have went one way, the other should have circled back around. Now, what you need to do is you need to increase the time allotment for the building. In other words, it needs to be open until at least 1 o'clock, and the reason is because of your courseware and your self-paced wear. When you have those courses, there's a deadline, which is midnight. But you also need to realize too that people do study, so you kind of got to look at 12 to 1 o'clock. Well, also your bus routes need to run up until your building closes. After your building closes, say like 30 minutes afterwards, they aren't going to like it, but that's the way it goes. How I would do it, I would look for more the shuttle. I would have a shuttle, to be honest with you, and it would be an express. It wouldn't stop anywhere. It would go from one point to another point, and you should be able to get the funding from that. You could probably do it through a Department of Education funding, or I don't like involving transportation in something that you don't. It's just having to deal with a whole set of different legislators. So really, I would work it through the funding grant. I would look at maybe looking at transportation and offering some kind of shuttle service. You have two vehicles that are over there that are sitting there doing nothing. Now, I know you might not want to do it, but you have officers that are already paid, and to my knowledge, I think there's 3 of you there. So that in itself is another issue. Why you have 3 officers at night, I'm still trying to figure that out, other than you having primary, backup, tertiary. So somebody in dispatch, somebody, and then 2 to row, or 2 to roam. I think they didn't approach me the wrong way or anything. It's just you targeted me instead of actually just sweeping your building the way you should sweep it. The thing is, you have to look at it from another standpoint. An ambulance ride costs $500, okay? Triage is $2,200. Now, with that in mind, during inclement weather, it's a place of refuge. You need to define your elements as far as what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable in inclement weather. Now, I wouldn't designate I would designate one area, like your cafeteria or something like that. That way you can kind of watch what's going on and you don't have to worry about it. I mean, you're already paid, you're there, and there's nothing wrong with it. I know that you don't want to be running a homeless shelter. Well, we're going to work on getting rid of the homeless shelters. That's what we're going to do. And how we're going to do that? Well, we're going to do it through funding. And the best way to do it is basically everybody's going to get some kind of small apartment. It won't be a big, I'm not looking at long-term things. I'm talking about 6 months. Like you have 6 months here, and also you need to eliminate the U.S. Marshal database, which employers are pulling off of at your credit report agencies. They're doing something that is patently illegal. You're blackballing people, and because you're blackballing people, and how I know you're blackballing people is because I should have been hired multiple times and I wasn't hired. Now, with that in mind, call interceptions of my employment or the trapping of emails, even during surveillance, is illegal. You can't do it. Even with your Homeland Security Act, your Homeland Security Act is really illegal. And the reason is because I'm a single individual. I'm not a group. And it does matter, because a group, you're going to be looking at financing, you're going to be looking at organizations, you're going to be looking at how they're operating. You're going to be looking at the logistics of the operation. There are different things that you're going to be looking at, elements that don't apply to a single individual trying to get a job or trying to get an education. Y'all don't have the justification in order to surveillance me the way that you've been surveillancing me. Basically, you've been violating my rights for a very long time. I know your organization isn't necessarily the person or the organization that was doing this. However, you've been brought into it, so you don't have a choice. You have to deal with the matter. The same thing with Oklahoma City. The thing is you're keeping people in a shelter so that you can do surveillance on them. That ain't right. That's illegal. You're violating everybody's rights that is inside that shelter. That pisses me off. There's a reason why it pisses me off, because there are soldiers that lay their lives on the line so that they can have those individual liberties, and you're stomping all over them. It's like you're spitting on the graves of the people that have died, or the people that have shed blood, or the families that have cried, or, believe it or not, our enemies, or enemies of the United States whenever they were at war with them. So you don't want to be a Hitler state. You don't want people reporting on shit that they shouldn't be reporting on. I realize that. But when it comes down to certain things, you need to have a non-emergency number that is for people's safety, that they can call without being harassed by a police department. In other words, a police dispatcher shouldn't be responsible for doing a lot of the things. They communicate. They're calling in. You're calling in people's backgrounds and seeing if they got priors and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to have them doing the emergency services thing. That needs to be a separate issue, but kind of like an 811, a 911, a 311, a 611, a 511, a 411, whatever the thing is, y'all need to come up with a system where somebody, if they are in this situation, that they have a way or a method that they can get some kind of shelter, and they may not have transportation. And I know, how is that our problem? Well, if it was your child, would you want a reasonable way of contacting and getting them to the shelter? Answer is yes, you would. So if you don't, then you're not a very good parent, and you're also probably a piece of shit. So with that in mind, just keep that in mind.